What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to the Full 90. It is finally time once again for the Champions League. This time it is match week 3 and the game's coming thick and fast. We just had the Premier League at the weekend. We got the Champions League, then more Premier League, then more Champions League, and it is going at 100 miles an hour. Please do drop a like, leave your predictions down in the comments below, and I just want to say we had a pretty good weekend with tips. If you check out the community tab, you can see a bunch of tips that I posted for the members that came in. I think Atletico Bilbao to win to 0 was one of my favorites. Lazio to win in a big way was one of my favorites. Both of those obviously winning 4-0. But have a look at this little bet I did. I didn't share the 10-fold accumulator with you because it's quite risky, and I wouldn't recommend necessarily anyone back a 10-fold unless you really want to. But if you are a member and you want me to share these crazy accumulators in the future, even if you just put £1 on it, let me know. But let me show you what happened. So this was the accumulator. I put £100 on it, and this right here, as you can see up there, there was a £4,200 cash out. It was Chelsea to win, over 2.5 goals in the Fulham-Newcastle game, Napoli to win, Milan to win, Lazio to win, both teams to score in the Inter Milan and Roma game, Barcelona to win, Real Madrid to win, Bournemouth-Brentford draw no bet, and Man City halftime full-time. Now, at this point, all of them had come in. The Brentford draw no bet was returned because it ended in a draw, and it was only Real Madrid to win left to play. Now, Benzema actually missed a penalty, and it ended 1-1. So Real Madrid didn't win. But at this stage, right after this picture was taken, I took £2,000 out of the cash out and left the rest in. So we put £100 on, got £2,000 back on a losing bet. But still, pretty cool. So if you do want to get involved with some exclusive member tips and everything like that, feel free to click the join button down below and keep an eye on the community tab for when I post, usually around a Friday, or if it's Champions League, maybe a Monday, Tuesday, that sort of thing. But today it is time for the actual video. Now with the Champions League, we do head over to Super Brew because there's a load of fixtures to go through and there's just so much to do. So I'm looking forward to it. Let's get over. I've got my provisional scores. I can offer some tips. Let's get to it. So here we go. First game. I mean, good luck finding any value in Bayern Munich against Viktoria Plzen. I'm going for 5-0. I think the best place to look at would just be Bayern Munich to win both halves, I would say, or Bayern Munich halftime, full-time with 3 or more goals, that sort of thing. Just double up on a lot of goals and a heavy Bayern Munich win. I wouldn't go as far as to say Bayern Munich to win to 0 because you never know. If you're feeling very brave, you could do Bayern and both teams to score, but Viktoria Plzen, they lost 2-0 to Inter. They lost 5-1 to Barca, so it could be a result pretty much identical to that. Bayern Munich beating Barcelona 2-0 and beating Inter Milan 2-0, but obviously Viktoria Plzen, as you can see by these two results, are not on the level of these two teams that Bayern Munich also beat here. So we're not going to stay too long on that. After that, Marseille up against Sporting. Marseille doing very well in Ligue 1. Sporting doing very well in the Champions League. They beat Tottenham 2-0. They beat Frankfurt 3-0. That was a big shock. Marseille still the odds-on favourites despite their pretty woeful record in the Champions League group stages. So I'm actually going to go for a Sporting win. But as you can see here, Sporting are outsiders for this fixture. So in terms of a tip, I think if you look at Sporting double chance, that gets you odds of about 1.6, and it's difficult to say that Marseille are going to beat this Sporting side with the momentum that Sporting have going into this game. So I would definitely look at Sporting double chance on that one. Ajax Napoli, I'm not going to delay with my prediction. I'm going to go 2-2. I think it's going to be a very close game. Ajax, you would say, historically are the better team, but Napoli absolutely flying this season. I think are they top of Serie A? Very close to, if not top. They scored the most goals in Serie A, and they made light work of Torino, I believe it was, at the weekend, and they've started off very well, beating Liverpool as well, beating Rangers too, but that was expected. Ajax will score goals. They've gone through a little bit of a blip in the Eredivisie. I think they drew with go-ahead Eagles. They're going to score a lot of goals. Napoli are going to score goals. In terms of a tip here, you've got to look at both teams to score. Both teams are scoring over 2.5 goals. That's pretty much nailed on for me. It could be 2-1 either way. Could be 3-2 either way. Could be 2-2. I'm going to meet in the middle, but I think there's going to be a lot of goals. I think both teams are going to score. Now, after that, we have Club Brugge up against Atletico Madrid. Now, if Brugge were to win this game, they're pretty much qualified for the knockout stages. It's been an absolutely crazy start to Group B. However, I do think Atletico Madrid are going to take this win. I think they're going to take a clean sheet. They've got some players back. I think they'll be able to actually beat Club Brugge because although they're playing really well, I don't think this can continue forever. If we look at the results, they beat Porto 4-0 and Leverkusen 1-0. I would say that Atletico Madrid are better than both those teams, but here they lost to Leverkusen 2-0, which was a shock to me, and they beat Porto 2-1. I'm going to go, it's a bit of a shock result, 1-0. I think tips, you could look at under 2.5 goals, most definitely. I would say side with Atletico Madrid if you can. But yeah, I would say quite a low scoring game, maybe even a clean sheet for Atletico Madrid here. After that, Eintracht Frankfurt against Tottenham. This one is going to be very interesting. I don't think Tottenham will win. I think at home, Tottenham could get the win here, but they just came back off the North London derby, and they were pretty woeful. I'm not going to lie. They did get a penalty, but other than that, they were very much not in the game. I'm going to go for a draw here. I definitely think Eintracht Frankfurt double chance could be a consideration here. These are very similar odds to Marseille and Sporting. And do I think Tottenham are going to go away to Germany and take a win? I'm not so sure. I mean, if we look here, they lost to Sporting, beat Marseille. Sounds about right. I think Eintracht Frankfurt can get something from this game. They'll feel like they can. They lost to Sporting as well. They beat Marseille as well. So these teams, you could argue, are on a fairly similar level. And especially at home for Frankfurt, I think they can get a result of some description against Tottenham. Now, Inter Milan up against Barcelona. This is a good time for Barcelona to play Inter Milan. My tip I would look at here would definitely be Barcelona to win. Perhaps you could double it up with a Lewandowski goal, because when the goals do come, they typically come through Lewandowski, much like Bayern Munich. I think Barcelona are going to win here. So I'm going to go... Okay, I thought I missed a fixture there. I'm going to go for this one, a 2-1 win to Barcelona. I was very, very close to 2-0. But Inter Milan do tend to score, and like in the tip that I gave the members with Inter Milan and Roma, I predicted both teams to score. I didn't go to the result market, and Inter Milan lost there 2-1 at home as well to Roma. And Barcelona, I would say, are better than Roma. So I'm going to go for a repeat result. Another 2-1 loss to Inter Milan. They haven't been clicking this season, and the odds there for a Barcelona win look pretty good to me. Now, after that, it's Liverpool up against Rangers. Liverpool drawing 3-3 with Brighton. I mean, that's absolutely insane. But I'd actually go as far to say that Brighton are probably better than Rangers at this point, certainly this season so far. I mean, Rangers lost to Ajax 4-0 and Napoli 3-0. They haven't scored a goal. They look pretty terrible. But Liverpool's defence has not looked good. So I'm going to give Rangers a goal. But at the same time, Liverpool, they are going to win. They're at home in the Champions League group stages. It's a recipe for success. They've got to bounce back. I'm going for a 3-1 tip here. Liverpool and both teams to score if you're brave. I think Liverpool half-time, full-time could be a shout as well, because then if Rangers don't score, it's likely that Liverpool are up at half-time. So I think that'll probably be about maybe 1.5, which is not great odds, but it's difficult to get value sometimes from these games where they're essentially so one-sided. And with Rangers conceding 7 and scoring 0 in the group stage so far, it's not unfathomable to think they could concede another 3 at Anfield in the Champions League. Now, we move on. Porto by Leverkusen. Something's got to change for Porto. They're a good side, but they're struggling this season. However, they are at home against Bayer Leverkusen. And Bayer Leverkusen and Porto, I would consider them both to be sort of home sides, if that makes sense. That's where they really shine. Like most teams, to be fair. Obviously, teams prefer playing at home. So I'm going to give the edge to Porto in that one, 2-1. If we look at the previous results, Bayer Leverkusen beat Atletico Madrid, which is fantastic. Lost to Club Brugge. Porto obviously lost to Club Brugge as well, 4-0. That was a little bit of a shock. And I think they were a little bit unlucky against Atletico Madrid. And I think at home here, they can get a result, get themselves level with Bayer Leverkusen. And of course, if that's the case, then Club Brugge will be licking their lips, hoping they can get something from Atletico Madrid. But again, I don't see it. Porto will probably expect that Madrid beat Club Brugge. And then if they can get a win and get 3 points, they're only 3 points behind top of the group. So this Group B is very, very interesting. And Porto, if they win this, are right in contention with every other team in this group, realistically, to qualify. So I think they can get the win here. Moving on, we have RB Leipzig up against Celtic. Leipzig, another team I predicted to get a heavy win at the weekend, and they did. But looking at their first 2 results, lost to Shakhtar 4-1. It sounds bad, and don't get me wrong, it is bad, but I feel like anyone can lose to Shakhtar. Real Madrid, for example, they've lost to Shakhtar in the past. They lost to Real Madrid 2-0. They're going to bounce back here. They're going to beat Celtic. Celtic a little bit out of their depth, in my opinion, here. Losing to Real Madrid 3-0. And drawing with Shakhtar 1-1. Not a bad result. Maybe at home, they'd give Leipzig a better game, but I'm going for a high-scoring Leipzig win. I think Leipzig and both teams to score could be a good shout. Moving on, we have FC Salzburg up against Dynamo Zagreb. This one is a really, really difficult one to predict because I think Salzburg are a better team. Dynamo Zagreb are definitely in better form. Salzburg have been drawing a lot of recent fixtures. I mean, in fact, not even just in the Champions League, but in the domestic league as well. But this is with AC Milan and Chelsea. Dynamo Zagreb, smash and grab against Chelsea, and they lost to AC Milan fairly heavily. I'm going to go for a 2-1 win to Salzburg. However, like I said, Dynamo Zagreb's recent form has been pretty good. They've been scoring a lot of goals domestically. I just think it's time for Salzburg to get a victory in Austria. I think they're going to do it. I could be wrong, but that's just my gut feeling. And sometimes you've got to go with your gut feeling. Now, this is going to be huge. Benfica, absolute form team. PSG, again, absolute form team. The two results, 3-1 Maccabi, 2-1 Juventus, thanks to Kylian Mbappe. And Benfica pretty much mirroring those results. This isn't going to be an absolute battering. Benfica are going to score, but PSG are just too good. So I'm going to go for a 3-1. I think PSG could be an outside shout to maybe win the Champions League. Obviously, I think Man City are going to win the Champions League. When you've got Erling Haaland, who has, you know, he's got nearly 20 goals in all competitions this season already. It's absolutely insane. He's got double the amount of goals as the next highest goal scorer in the Premier League in Harry Kane on 7. He's on 14. So we can talk about him later. And I will talk about him later for sure. But I think PSG will beat Benfica. There is a difference in class. And those odds, 1.74, very good. To just look at PSG to win outright, I would go for that. If not, both teams to score, again, very good. Because I predicted PSG would win at the weekend with both teams scoring. And I also predicted they'd win an under 4.5 goals. So I basically said it would be either a 2 or a 3-1 win to PSG. And it was. I could see the exact same thing happening here. After this one, it's Chelsea up against AC Milan, as you can see here. Chelsea not off to the best start in the Champions League, but thanks to a brilliant goal from Conor Gallagher, like I said in my Premier League predictions video, they are climbing their way up the Premier League, sort of unnoticed. Although it's been a bad start by their standards, they're in the top 4, I'm pretty sure. Like, they're going under the radar because of how well Arsenal are doing, how Man City are blowing teams away. But with Liverpool falling off, Chelsea, they're in a decent spot considering how well they've played. And AC Milan almost threw their game at the weekend, conceding an equaliser in the 92nd minute and then scoring 2 more in stoppage time. I am going to go for a Chelsea win. At home, Stamford Bridge, 2-1. Going to be a close game. Both teams to score would definitely be my shout in this one. AC Milan are good. Chelsea should win at home. Decent odds there. I would look at the both teams to score market. Now after this, Juventus, they've lost 2 games in the Champions League. Maccabi are going to lose this one. 3-0 to Juve. I think a good tip for this one would be Juventus -1 handicap. With odds of 1.3 to win, -1 is probably like 1.92, that sort of thing. Maccabi, if you look at their results, they've lost on a -1 handicap both times to both PSG and Benfica. These suggest that Juventus is slightly worse than them, but I mean, they only lost by 1 goal in both games. They had a good result at the weekend. I'm going for a Juventus win 3-0, and Juventus -1 would definitely be something that I would look at. Now, Man City Copenhagen. Erling Haaland. I've just checked the odds, and anytime goal scorer for Erling Haaland, 1.36. Perhaps some of the lowest odds I've ever seen. However, if you make it Erling Haaland to score 2 or more, it's 2.37. A massive increase in a game where City are such massive favourites that there's barely any value. So I'm going to go for a 6-0 win to Manchester City. That might sound crazy, but to me that sounds very likely. Erling Haaland to score 2 or more at 2.37 is my official tip. Could go for a hat-trick at 5.5. He's the only player in the Premier League to get 3 hat-tricks in 3 home games in a row, and he is the fastest player to reach 3 hat-tricks in the Premier League by something like 40 games or something crazy. So absolutely unreal. Massive win. Haaland gets on the score sheet twice. It seems this season at the very least, so far, his fitness has been very good. I know at Dortmund it was a bit of a worry when he came to Man City, and I said he would win the Premier League Golden Boot with the caveat that he plays every game of the season. I think he could win the Golden Boot playing half the games of the season. So I think he's going to score a couple of goals. Champions League is where he shines. What a player. Now after that, Real Madrid, Shakhtar Donetsk. I was tempted to go for a sort of a high-scoring one. I'm going a bit subdued. Sometimes Real Madrid do that. You think they might get a massive win, a crazy win. I think this is going to be more of like a clinical, get the job done, get out of there kind of win. 2-0 to Real Madrid. They've just come off a draw against Osasuna, which obviously I placed a bet on. So I think Real Madrid are going to bounce back here, take a win from Shakhtar, and Shakhtar won't be too disappointed. They got the draw with Celtic. They beat Leipzig. Real Madrid is obviously the team they'd expect to top the group. Shakhtar's main focus will be on the other games. So I'm going for a 2-0 win here. And the final game, Sevilla up against Borussia Dortmund. I'm actually going to go not against the odds. It seems pretty much of a stalemate, but Borussia Dortmund, I'm going to go for a 2-1. I think they can get the win. Sevilla not in the greatest shape right now, and I'm just going to go for a 2-1 win to Borussia Dortmund. So those are my picks. If we look here, a little recap. Heavy wins for Bayern Munich, PSG, I suppose, Leipzig, Liverpool, Man City, Juventus, those sort of things. And then Tottenham dropping points in the group. Ajax, Napoli, thrilling game. And yeah, so just have a look at these and feel free to take what you like. So that is going to do it for the Champions League predictions. I'm very much excited to see how these pan out. Be sure to drop a like on the video. Subscribe down below. We're getting very close to 22,000. That is going to do it from me. And I will see you in the next video very soon.